They arrested her, right there in the same police station where she had come to ask for help. Hair disheveled, eyes swollen from crying, wrists in handcuffs. She wasn't a criminal. She was the wife of a decorated cop, and she had just found the courage to report him. What happened next shook the entire city, but it started with that single moment of betrayal. Because the next morning, before sunrise, black SUVs with government plates surrounded the station. Armed agents stepped out, and they weren't there for coffee. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love knowing how far these real stories reach. Rachel Torres had always been the quiet kind. First grade teacher, PTA meetings, neighborhood potlucks. The kind of woman who knew everyone's birthday, who brought cupcakes to school even when she was exhausted. She lived in Bakersfield, California with her husband, Officer Daniel Torres. He wore the badge. He had medals on the wall. Everyone in town respected him. What they didn't see was what Rachel lived every night behind their front door. For years, she kept silent. She told herself it wasn't that bad, that Daniel was just stressed, that the yelling would stop, that he loved her. But the bruises on her arm said otherwise. The tracking apps on her phone, the locked doors, the way he stared at her like she was a suspect, not a wife. One night, he snapped, slammed a plate against the wall, cornered her in the kitchen, and whispered threats she couldn't forget. The next morning, she got up early, dressed carefully to hide the marks, and walked into the police station. Her hands trembled as she told Officer Dean Mallory, Daniel's closest colleague, everything, the shouting, the threats, the bruises. She expected disbelief. What she didn't expect was smirking, then silence, then handcuffs. Rachel spent that night in a holding cell. They accused her of filing a false report, of slandering a public servant. Daniel had already turned the story around, said she attacked him, said she was unstable. It was her word against his, and his badge tipped the scale. The town gossiped. She became the crazy woman who tried to ruin a good cop. But what no one knew was that Rachel had planned for this. She had been documenting everything for months. Audio recordings, photos, copies of hospital visits she never filed. And she'd sent it all to her sister, Nina, a civil rights attorney in D.C. At 5:37 a.m. the next day, 4 unmarked black SUVs parked outside the Bakersfield police station. Members of the National Police Oversight Task Force stepped out in bulletproof vests. No announcements, no knocks. The front doors swung open, and the entire station was frozen in disbelief. Daniel was arrested on the spot. Dean Mallory tried to protest until his name came up in the obstruction charges. Inside, agents gathered files, wiped computers, questioned everyone. Rachel was released with no charges, no apology, no words, but she didn't need them. She had the truth, and now, so did the country. Weeks later, as the town adjusted to the shock, Rachel stood in front of her classroom again. The whispers faded. The kids smiled, and somewhere in the back of the room, pinned to the wall, was a simple drawing, a woman standing tall beside a lion. One of her students had drawn it. Underneath, the word brave. Justice didn't come easy. It came with fear, silence, and doubt, but it came because she didn't give up. Because sometimes the loudest thing a person can do is speak quietly to the right person at the right time. If this story moved you, comment the word courage, because sometimes it's the smallest, scariest decision that changes everything. There is a story here on the screen that will also move you. Press to watch, you won't regret it.